welcome to Revival Town Podcast. I'm Chuck Tate. That's Andy King.
Hey, Chuck. How you doing, mate?
I am doing good. This is a crazy week. It is election week in the United States of America.
Finally.
Finally. It has been ongoing. And you texted me a couple weeks ago, and then you sent me pictures and a video, and I almost fell out of my chair. You've got to tell everybody what happened.
So we are pulling out of my subdivision, and as I pull out, I realized that we had pulled into a Trump train. Now, for those who don't know what a Trump train is, it's basically folks that meet at a certain area all over the country that are doing this. And they'll go from one part of town to another part of town with big Trump flags and I mean, just
it's like a professional. It's like a processional.
Yeah,
it's like pulling into a funeral processional.
Yeah.
But it's Trump. A Trump train with people with the big flags and the banners. I mean, well, if it was a Harris train, that would be like a funeral processional. Oh, no, okay. Don't go there, Chuck. Don't go there.
Well, so we pull out and we're like, well, let's just follow them because we're in the middle of it. And so they pull into this fairground near our house, and there are hundreds of cars. Now we live in Illinois,
right in the middle of it.
I mean, the only thing
was so funny.
The only thing American I had on me was the car I was in, which was my Bronco.
Right.
But everyone had flags and everything. So me and Teresa was with me, and we get out, and 4 years ago, we went to a Trump rally.
You went to a rally, yeah. How was that, by the way?
I mean, it was incredible. There was thousands there. It was in Wisconsin.
It's amazing how many people he draws to these
things.
Things.
Because it doesn't, he won't mess with Illinois because it's full-on Democrat. And so it was Teresa's birthday. This was 4 years ago. And she's like, let's just do something. I mean, we were sitting at home. We're like, just do something crazy today. I was like, Trump's in Wisconsin. And so we got in the car, drove.
Wow.
It was great. We stood for hours. In fact, part of some of Teresa's medical stuff started around that time. I'm not saying that was the reason, but her standing for 8 hours or more didn't help with the pelvic floor issue she's got. And so, and everyone was there because it was the day before the election when we went.
Wow.
So, because it was her birthday, November 4th. So everyone was there. All the family were there. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
And so, but anyway, we get into this Trump train, and we end up in this fairground and get out and walk around, see the folks. and then got in the car and got to Marshall's where we were trying to get to.
So you just stayed in the train and you followed them until they stopped.
Yeah.
And then got out and let's hang out.
We pull in the parking lot and we're like,
hilarious.
There's a lot of people here. So that was my Trump story for this year for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Well, God bless America. You know what? Doesn't matter who is president. Jesus is king.
That's right. And for us, we've never got ultra political on Revival Town. We have
we kind of did today.
Well, that's fine. I mean, but we have a wide array of guests that come on, not only from America, right, but from around the world. So sometimes there's no need, but for us, we just hold true to biblical values that we see,
and policy is important to me. In family, sanctity of life.
Yeah.
Those are all, I'm passionate. When it comes to gender and sexuality and abortion and sanctity of life and marriage and traditional values, all those things, those are the things, I as a follower of Jesus, I look everything through a biblical lens. So that stuff, it matters to me.
Yeah. So make sure you're out voting this week.
Yes,
right?
This is it.
And
don't go crazy.
Yeah, don't go crazy.
Don't fight with people online. Avoid that.
Yeah.
Love people. You can disagree and still love somebody.
Yeah.
And even though I've seen some posts that say you can't, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone lie to you.
Yeah.
You can.
Yep. So yeah. So
And we got a good show today. We forgot we have a guest coming on today.
yeah, and someone who has been a part of Dream Center's story the last few years, and he and his organization that he heads up. And to be honest, it's not really to do with the organization he heads up, but it's to do with his heart for generosity,
Which he published in a book.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to talking about this book.
Yeah, so why don't you sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation with Josh Waite.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's edifi.app.
Okay, friends, it's time for another conversation on a Revival Town podcast. Our guest today, Josh Waite, is the founder and CEO of Waite Financial Group and co-founder of Intentional Living Today LLC. His mission is to help those he leads live life intentionally while inspiring generosity. Josh is the author of 3 books, including one that is a culmination of his weekly emails, and it's called Live Life Intentionally: 52 Weekly Actions to Transform Your Year and Your Life. Josh, welcome to Revival Town.
Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Josh, we've gone back quite a ways now. You came alongside Dream Center a few years ago and said, "Hey, I just have a generous heart, and I've got a way that I want to bring people along with that to really impact not only Dream Center but other nonprofits that you choose." And so every year in April, May time, you do an event that brings people together, really, that you work alongside on a financial side, but really to challenge them to live generously. And it's a brilliant concept. And so that's how our paths crossed, and we'll talk more about that in just a bit. But can you just tell us a bit about who Josh Waite is, especially journey of faith and family, and can you just give us a bit of a breakdown on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So again, thanks for the opportunity to be a part of this podcast. I've been looking forward to it for a while now, and hope the listeners get something from our time together here. But my story begins in a rural part of central Illinois. My mom still lives in the farmhouse I grew up in, just west of Peoria, in between Elmwood and Farmington. Now, literally, the house I grew up in is a mile down the road from my grandparents' farm. And so I grew up working on the farm, walking beans, cleaning grain bins, learned the value of hard work at a young age, which I'm thankful for. And from there, I have not traveled too far from the Peoria area. I transitioned from high school to college at Bradley, studied finance, got introduced to an internship program with Northwestern Mutual, which is the firm that we're still affiliated with 22 years later, and met my wife during that time that we were in college. She's also from a small town, the Glassford area outside of Peoria. Got married 19 years ago. We'll be celebrating our 20-year anniversary next August.
Wow.
And we've got 2 kids. Son is Ben, who's 15, about to turn 16 on November 4th, and we'll be getting his driver's license. So that's what's exciting in our family at the moment. And our daughter Ava is 14. She will be 15. 13. She'll be 14 in November. Both go to Peoria Christian School, and we currently attend Northwoods as a church.
Yeah.
Wow. So I got to jump in and say this is kind of cool. So way back in the day, my son is a junior in high school, and he's almost 17, and you were his basketball coach in grade school at Peoria Christian.
That's right. And I was always stumbling on what his first name was because everybody called him Tate. And I actually thought for the longest time that was his first name until I realized that was his last name. But Ashton, right?
Yep. So yeah, fun times. So thank you for investing in him.
So you obviously, and I mentioned it earlier about the financial side of what you do, but and we're going to talk a little bit about the book that you've created that really is a beautifully well done book. But you had an encounter on a missions trip that really changed your perspective on giving and generosity. I've heard it many times because it's a powerful story of how God can really break into someone's life. But would you share that? Because I think that will set the stage of what you do and how you do it, and be able to impact people so much.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. And so, my journey of generosity starts as a young kid going to church on Sunday mornings at the Methodist Church in Elmwood, where I grew up. And I remember it vividly. My dad would always give my brother and sister and I each $1 to put in the offering plate as it was passed at church. And from that very early experience, it was just taught that generosity was a part of who we are and what we do. And I'm thankful for that, and really do have a genuine heart for being generous financially in other ways. But one of the things that I had on my wish list was to go on a mission trip for some time. And at the time, we were attending Northwoods Church, but we weren't really plugged in yet. And one of my good friends, Ed Brockway, had been a member there and actually on their elder board for some time. And he knew that I had this desire to go on a mission trip. And so one day he just calls me up, as Ed tends to do, and just says, "Hey, I just signed up for the mission trip to the Dominican. There's one spot left if you want to go. Are you interested?" And this is like November, and the trip is in January. And I just felt like that was a divine moment, that God put Ed in my life for a reason. He asked me that question for a reason. And so he and I went to the Dominican Republic with Northwoods to a mission called Solid Rock International. And Solid Rock has a number of things they do. They've built churches, schools, they've got a medical clinic. And I went down there with a group of construction workers or individuals that would be doing construction, and then a medical team. And because I've got no medical training, experience, or background, I was doing construction for most of my time in the Dominican. And even in January, it's hot. And so we were digging footing holes for a barrier wall that was going to go around this medical clinic every day with a shovel. No Caterpillar backhoe, no skid steer, like just a shovel digging into the hard ground, not making much progress. But fortunately, one day they gave the construction team the opportunity to go with the medical team out into the field. And that was when I had this experience that I've talked about many times before. And so as I went out with the medical crew, we went to a remote area of the Dominican and set up a triage clinic. So there's no hospital there. They're setting up the hospital in this rural town. And then individuals from the area come from all over to get treated. And I saw individuals that had walked through the night with young kids just to be there that morning to get medical care that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. And so it was impactful on a number of levels. I spent most of my time that day playing with the children and keeping them occupied while their parents were treated and got taken care of. But about halfway through the day, one of the individuals that I'd gotten to know on the construction team asked me if I wanted to go out into what they call the barrio. The barrio is the kind of rural, more poor parts of the area, and evangelize with the community. And there was a pastor with us. And so this individual had gotten to know me on the construction team. He was an interpreter, and his name is Elvis. It's kind of funny because I tend to say Elvis because that's how you would say it if you read it in English. But no, Elvis wasn't in the Dominican. This was Elvis. And Elvis and I connected immediately because I was wearing at the time my St. Louis Cardinals baseball hat, and he quickly pointed to that and he said Tony La Russa, who was the baseball coach of the St. Louis Cardinals at the time. And And what you might not know, or maybe you do know, but in the Dominican Republic, baseball is the sport. And so the Dominicans know their baseball. They knew Tony La Russa and the St. Louis Cardinals, and we just had this connection. And so he grabbed me and said, "You want to go out and evangelize?" And so I'm with Elvis and the pastor, and we're walking down the street. And as I've described it before, it's the closest I think I will ever get to what it must have been like in Bible times. It's like dirt roads, houses made of stick and mud. And, the pastor was going up to the families and starting a conversation in Spanish. And so I couldn't tell what was being said, but Elvis would translate for me along the way. And these individuals were coming to Christ through the conversation of the pastor, which was amazing to be a part of. And as we made our way down that street, we got to the house at the very end and walked into it, and was greeted very warmly by this elderly woman who lived there. And I don't know how old she was. I would have guessed in her 60s or 70s, but very thin, frail, and a small lady. And I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'4". So she was barely mid-chest height, but just greeted us with this warm, Hispanic, as you have maybe learned and grown to appreciate, just affection for people and hospitality, and offered us coffee, offered us food, just wanted us to be welcome inside her home.
Sure.
And I'm sitting down, and I'm not a coffee drinker, so I passed on any coffee, but I'm listening to the conversation between the pastor and this lady, and all of a sudden it gets pretty heated. Not in an argumentative way, but in the elevation of the conversation was picking up as she was very emotional as she was communicating with the pastor. And what I learned through Elvis was that she was asking for money, but not just money for anything. She was asking for money to build an outhouse next to her home, because her current outhouse was down the hillside, because her house was built on a ridge, and the outhouse that she is walking to was down by the creek that was a ways down the hillside. And at her age, it was becoming challenging for her to make that walk up and down just to use the restroom. And we had been coached that you weren't supposed to give money to individuals on the mission trip. It set a bad precedent. It led to other issues.
Sure.
And so the pastor was telling her, "No, we can't give you money." And Elvis is relaying this to me, and eventually she calms down, and we go to leave this house that, I call it a house. It's smaller than the office I'm sitting in right now. That's the size of the home that she lived in. And as we walk out of the corner of my eye, I see Elvis reach into his pocket and hand this lady what had to be all the money he had.
Wow.
And I don't think anybody saw it but me. And I just caught it as I was turning to walk away. But that is the moment where it just hit me that there's a level of generosity that I had not been exposed to before. Fortunately, I'm blessed to have resources to give and support organizations like Dream Center. And this is an individual that likely makes less than lower class individuals in the United States, giving everything he has to help this lady to build an outhouse because her restroom is down the hill. And as I thought about that more, one of the things that stuck with me is witnessing that incident is what changed me. It wasn't hearing about it. Like I can tell that story, and hopefully it communicates how it impacted me, but there's no way it has the same impact as actually witnessing it firsthand. And there's a song that is often played in the worship time at our church called "I Have Witnessed It," and that song has taken on a new meaning for me because it really is witnessing the generosity that inspires generosity. It was me witnessing that event that inspired me to say, I want to do something bigger. I want to do something more when it comes to being generous. And what that has bubbled into is this initiative, Andy, that you're referring to, that we've now done for 3 years, which we've decided to call Inspiring Generosity.
Yeah. Can you dig into that a little bit?
That's a great story, by the way. I think I've heard it before. Maybe you told me, Andy. And by the way, I did a ski trip a couple of times with Ed Brockway, so kind of cool.
Well, it's a crazy thing. I am very close to Luke, his son, and Joanne, because she's British, and they now live away from Peoria. But I didn't know that it was Ed and the whole connection, which is crazy there. Yeah, that's really cool.
Small world.
Small world.
Great story, though.
So
I thought she was ticked off because you don't like coffee. I was still stuck on that.
Yeah. I often meet people at a coffee shop because that's where people like to meet. Right. And then I just order a bottle of water and
my wife does not like coffee at all either. She hates it.
Does she? I never knew that.
No, it's got to be tea or chai. She hates coffee.
Must be the English side liking the tea.
I've been drinking a lot of tea lately. That's another conversation.
Yeah. So you get back. Obviously, God has really challenged you, and now has put you in this position of, okay, how can I really help people on their journey of generosity? Can you unpack how that all unfolded?
Yeah, well, it ties in nicely to just the business and the industry that we're in, financial planning and helping individuals with their money. But I've worked with individuals from a financial planning standpoint for 20 plus years. Fortunately, I helped a number of individuals as they transition to and through retirement. And a part of that process is helping them get clarity and confidence that they have enough resources to be able to retire. And it's a really amazing experience. I never get tired of it, sitting across from an individual and saying, if you're going to work tomorrow, I hope it's only because you love what you do, because you no longer need to do it for the money.
Right.
And those conversations lead to then a follow-up, which is when we help quantify what's the excess capacity financially that they have. And so it's not just, hey, Andy, you've got enough to retire, but Andy, you've got enough to retire, and actually you have extra capacity. You could be spending or giving away an extra X thousands of dollars per year and still be okay.
Yeah.
And as you might imagine, how that conversation progresses is it does lead to a place where people are considering being more generous. And as I had a number of those conversations, I started getting questions that were unexpected, which was a question like, Josh, well, what organizations might you consider giving money to? Who should I consider giving money to? And why that shocked me is, my wife and I have been very involved in the community for a long time. And frankly, I feel like there's more great organizations to give to than I've got resources to spread it across. And I've got to pick and choose and be selective. But for someone to say they didn't know who they should give money to just floored me. I was like, wow, now that's a perspective I didn't think was possible. But the truth is, a lot of individuals just haven't been connected to a cause.
Yeah.
And that idea of connecting individuals to a cause is what led to us creating this event that every year, as you mentioned, in April, we invite our clients and members of the community. We provide a nice meal and an opportunity to network. But then the program is primarily individuals like you and other leaders and local nonprofits that come up and share who they are, what the mission of their organization is, with the idea that we're facilitating this connection to a cause. And then at the end, I come up and I tell the story I just told of Elvis and my trip to the Dominican, and how that challenged me in a way that nothing else ever has, and how we're living that out as an organization. We then offer a match up to $1,000 per household of clients. So husband and wife will match $1,000, or anybody in the audience that want to give money to the causes that are represented that evening. And the first year we offered a match of a total of $50,000. And I was thinking, this would be a big success if our clients gave $50,000. We gave $50,000 as a match. We'd raise $100,000 for 2 or 3 charities, and we just build upon that. And I had this vision that over 5 years, we'd raise $1 million for charity.
Yeah.
And when I said that the first time, I had no idea how that would happen. And I had a number of people, even internally in our organization, ask me, are you really sure you want to throw that out there? Because that seems a little crazy. But as the author of one of my favorite books, Crazy Faith, which is written by Pastor Michael Todd, if you've read that book, his saying is, it's only crazy until it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that first year, we raised $191,000.
Wow.
Year 2, we came back, we did the same thing. We raised $264,000.
Wow.
Last year, or this year, this April, from April to June, when we wrap up the matching offer, we raised $431,000. And so we're over $900,000 that we've raised for 6 charities total.
Wow.
And now $1 million doesn't seem like that crazy of an idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We have one of our staff core values that we have here is dream one size too big. And that whole concept of, okay, we could go to this, but what would God really want us to go to that is something that only God can do because it's way bigger than what we even thought of. And we have that as a staff value because we're not even thinking money. We're thinking how can we impact more people with the gospel through the type of ministries that we do, and taking it one step forward. And so yeah, I totally, because we sit around in the staff meeting sometimes, and a new idea, Zoe House, for instance, when that came up, people are like, are you crazy? You're already doing so much, and it's 24/7, and it's babies, and it's,
expensive.
Expensive. We've got to buy a house. There's medical side to it. But yet we just felt, we could have done that somewhere in this building. But would it have been that retreat, that safe place for that pregnant mom? No, we're going to take it and create get a home and create a home feel for these girls. And
you'll have greater impact.
Yeah, and just a few nights ago, we welcomed third baby was born. So we have 3 girls that have their babies in Zoe House. And you guys with Waite Financial and with the event, we're all behind that, Josh, helping us get that launched, and so much more going on, which I thank you for. What is it, here's just a question, what is it like to be on the other end once you've sown the seed somewhere? And as you know, some of this seed takes time, like Zoe House has been a year and a half or more in the making, to where now there's girls there with babies. But what is it like planting the seed but then seeing fruit of it as well?
Yeah, it's pretty cool as you're describing, what I'm sure you're experiencing with Zoe House. But when God puts something on your heart to do, and often, like you're saying, that idea or thought that he puts is something bigger than you're capable of doing on your own.
Sure. And
trusting him that it's going to play out, and then seeing it play out in a way much bigger than you ever imagined. It just continues to build that conviction to follow his leading, and trusting him that if the dream is one size too big, well, that's okay. And so my conviction is continually building as other ideas start to kind of bubble up. The most recent one that I shared back in April is I don't believe what we're doing is exclusive to Waite Financial Group. Maybe the idea is unique because God gave me the idea and we're the first ones executing it. But my belief is this is something that other financial advisors not just locally, but across the country could do. Other businesses could create their own version of something like this. And the number that God gave me earlier this year was $10 million by the end of the decade that's raised through all these other organizations like Waite Financial Group that take the same concept, take the same process, and introduce great charities to generous people, connecting them with a cause, and inspiring generosity. It does something to you, as both of you know, when you're generous, that you don't expect. And
Right.
once you catch that, at least for me, once you catch that bug of being generous, doing it for the right reasons, but just the way it changes you as the giver is what's inspiring more generosity. And so that's what I believe the event does, is it encourages people with a match and connecting them to great organizations to maybe start to give when they otherwise hadn't. But once they start doing it, they don't need a match to keep giving. My hope is these individuals are continuing to give to Dream Center and other organizations when opportunities present themselves, because we've now facilitated that connection.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you have done is you have an email that goes out. It also goes out on Facebook that is just stories that are trying to inspire folks on this line. And you took 52 of those, turned it into a book, Live Life Intentionally, 52 weekly actions to transform your year and your life. Beautifully put together, Josh. And we were talking earlier. This is a book that isn't really like on an Amazon. This is something like a gift you give your clients, which we understand that. But you did mention about if people are interested in getting it, they could reach out to you, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But this book isn't just a read. There's also action items, there's weekly reminders, there's a place to do notes. What drove you to do this book, and why? Not only drove you to do the book, but why this topic? I mean, you've written a couple of other financial books as well, but why this?
Yeah. Part of my story that I didn't share is 20 years ago, this past February, my father passed away from pancreatic cancer. It was actually 21 years ago next month that we sat around the kitchen table as a family, and he shared to my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, but Nikki, my wife today, and my brother and sister, that he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. That's November 2003. February 7th, 2004, he passed away. And I know we all have stories like that are really challenging, that we have to work through in our life. And I do believe very strongly that it's those challenging moments in life that God molds us and shapes us into who he wants us to be. And that couldn't be more clear in my life as I look back on that terrible event and what it did for me. It led to me accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I grew up going to church, always in the church, but did not have a personal relationship. And it was my dad's testimony and seeing him read his daily bread little booklet at the hospital as he was living out his last days, that just inspired me to take a deeper look at what faith really means. But
Wow.
But also, what came out of that was a realization that in life, there's a resource a whole lot more valuable than money, and it's time.
Yeah.
In my opinion. In my opinion, there is no resource that we have access to more valuable than time, because you don't know how much of it you have, and every day that goes by, you can't get it back. And so the idea of living life intentionally is my call to action personally for me every day, to make the most of the time that I have with the people that I care about. Because I can tell you, I would give up all the money I have, or whatever that's worth, for more time with my dad.
Yeah.
And so there's that was building, germinating over time. I've always enjoyed writing. I'm reading a book right now. I'm actually rereading Mark Batterson's book, Chase the Lion. It's one of my favorite books. And he talks about how the reason why he is proficient at writing is because even though he's a pastor and does a lot of speaking is not natural to him. And so he would write and rewrite his speeches or his sermons, and it forced him to get really good at writing. And as I read that actually last night, I'm rereading the book, and it's like, that's exactly what my story was. I mean, I am not a natural communicator. And if you had met me 20 years ago, you would have met a very shy, introverted, borderline socially awkward college student. And to stand up in front of a group of a couple hundred people and tell the story of Elvis and the Dominican is a total God story, because that's not my natural skill set. But because it wasn't a natural skill set, I've always been one that expresses more naturally my thoughts through writing. And so I've been writing these messages for 5+ years, primarily internally to our organization, the people that work for me. And then I forget who it was, but somebody said, you really ought to start sharing this with others. And so we started sending these messages to our clients. And now, we send it to all our clients. It goes out on social media. And we've got a couple hundred individuals that have said, hey, I'm not a client, but I'd like to receive these messages every week. And so it starts as an email that goes to about 1,000 individuals and then gets posted to social media. And in each one, usually it ties in a life experience, a story, something that I've lived through or seen or learned through reading. And it finishes with a call to action. And it's this week, what's the one thing you could do to live a more intentional life? And to answer your question all the way back to where it started, is it was me taking 52 of those messages, putting them together into a book format so that, like you said, I could give that out to individuals, clients, and so forth. And certainly individuals can buy the book directly from me if they're interested in that. We've just chosen not to put it on Amazon for mass distribution.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's so good. Well, Josh, we here at Dream Center are obviously so thankful for your heart. One of the hardest things for us as a nonprofit, and most nonprofits, is sharing the story with people who may not have heard it before. And you definitely helped us do that and are helping us do that. And just to really help not just us, but as you mentioned, there's other nonprofits at these events. But for your heart, our office, your office is just blocks from the Dream Center. So it's one of those things of a local organization being impacted by a local business and people that are local that we really appreciate and thank.
Yeah, well, it's a great partnership. I mean, I believe in what the Dream Center does. Our organization loves volunteering at the different events. The ladies in our office participated in the prom dress event earlier this year. And just the things that you're doing are having significant impact. And we love being a part of it.
Yeah. Well, Josh, would you take time perhaps just to pray for those who may be listening and something stirring in them with regards to living intentionally? And we've talked about some of the financial, but it's not just that. It's volunteering somewhere. It's doing something for someone that they normally wouldn't do. Could you perhaps lean into that in prayer for us?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you.
Yeah, Father God, we just thank you for this time, the opportunity to share with Andy and Chuck. And Lord, I just pray for those that are listening today, that if there was something stirred inside them to either be more generous with their resources or their time, or to live a more intentional life, Lord, I just pray that your Spirit challenges them to take a step forward, whatever that step is. And and believe that you're in it, Lord, as we've talked about, dreaming one size too big, and it's only crazy until it happens. Lord, I just pray that the individuals that are listening today take that step of faith, even if it may seem crazy, with their finances and with their time, to impact the world for you. And we just thank you for this time. Thank you for Chuck and Andy and what they do on this podcast. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Josh.
Amen. Well, Josh, it wouldn't be an episode of Revival Town without doing the big three, which is 3 questions that we're going to ask you that have nothing really to do with the conversation, but everything to do with getting to know you even more. Before we get to that, though, you mentioned about the book. How could people connect with you? What's the easiest way?
And get the newsletter.
And get the newsletter and things like that.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So, I'm on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, for sure. But email is the best way to connect, and it's all lowercase Josh, Josh, Waite, Waite, at N as in Nancy, M as in Mark.com. So josh.waite@nm.com. Feel free to email me. I'd love to hear from anyone that's interested in learning more about inspiring generosity or living an intentional life. Just those reach outs that I receive are very, very encouraging. So happy to help in whatever way we can to help people pursue those 2 initiatives for sure.
Great.
Excellent.
All right. Well, the big 3. You want me to start, Chuck?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yep. You start.
So, Josh, I follow you on social media and love it when you start posting about all these different places you and your family visit. What is your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, tough because I've lived for a long time with a philosophy that you should always have a vacation on the calendar. And so my wife and I are usually planning our next vacation while we are on a vacation. And for me, it's a sense of a finish line is when I'm doing life professionally and personally, I'm going hard and maximizing that time like we talked about. And to have a date on the calendar where I can rest and recharge is valuable. But we rarely go back to the same location.
Oh, okay.
We're trying new places, but maybe our favorite spot. Our daughter Ava would say her favorite spot has been the Virgin Islands and St. Thomas in particular. Just love both the clear blue waters, the smooth waters. I mean, not big waves. And when the kids were younger, play in the water, but we've done a number of fun things there. That's one place that we've been back to more than once. So maybe that's the only way to gauge it because there's so many great places to see. It's hard to narrow it down.
All right.
Wow.
Right.
Love it. All right. So you mentioned Michael Todd. You mentioned Mark Batterson. Mark Batterson's my favorite author. He actually endorsed my book, 41 Will Come, and we have the same agent, the literary agent, which is really cool. Small world. So who else do you read?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if you can see, but I've got bookshelves upon bookshelves behind me. And so, I love Mark Batterson. He's got so many good books. Andy Stanley from a Christian leadership perspective. My favorite book, if I just were to go that direction, is probably Shoe Dog. It's the Phil Knight memoir, the story of Nike, and so growing up in the 90s and the Bulls and the whole Nike, from selling shoes out of the back of his car to building kind of the empire that is Nike. Just really entertaining. So a close second would be Boys in the Boat. And I wish they just produced a movie about within the last year, but the story of the Washington rowing team going to the Olympics in Nazi Germany and beating the Germans in front of Hitler, and this ragtag bunch of college students with their own individual stories. Those 2 books are just really inspiring and get me energized. But just like vacation spots. It's hard for me to narrow down books. I just love to read.
Right.
All right. Well,
You can read in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Yeah, there you go.
Sitting on the beach with a book.
So, okay, hopefully I'll stump you again. If someone is visiting you in Peoria, what is your number one spot to take them to eat?
Take them to eat. I would likely bring them to our home. We love to host and entertain. And I'm not sure if she'll ever listen to this podcast, but I'll say it anyways. My wife is a phenomenal cook. She loves watching the cooking shows and is always creating different meals, and is very health conscious. As a family, we're very focused on healthy eating. And so she's got the magic of taking something that is really healthy and making it taste really good. And so, I would probably bring them to our home and
Love it.
and let Nikki cook and just and be here. But yeah, I love the question.
That's great. That's great. Well, Josh, we want to thank you so much for coming on to Revival Town. And like I mentioned earlier, also our friendship and relationship with the Dream Center as well. And we just want to thank you for taking time to just share your story and especially with regards to the book and everything that's been going on. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thanks again. It's a real pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Yeah, great. Josh, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey.
All right. Hey, another good conversation.
Yeah, it was good. Josh is really doing a great work here in Peoria, just challenging people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
love it.
Obviously he does the financial stuff, but challenging people to think differently. So it was great.
I'm going to subscribe.
Oh,
yeah.
You got a follower. Look at that. Hey, look at that. Hey. So you know what is coming up, although a lot of people, they tell us that this is their favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback about this.
I know, but this is Tate and his mate.
Tate and his mate.
This is where we talk about
British words.
Things English.
Yes. So you are mate, I'm Tate.
Yeah.
And this is where you give me a British word or rhyming Cockney slang, something like that is familiar in the UK, not here, and I have to guess. And sometimes I get it right, but mostly I get it wrong.
Yeah. I got a good one today.
All right, I'm ready.
Let me try and let me just that was a cat among the pigeons.
I have no idea.
That was a
cat among the. What was a cat among?
It was just a cat among the pigeons.
That was a cat among the pigeons.
Yeah.
Okay, that was just a cat among the pigeons. I mean, that was just I don't know, man. That was a barn burner. That was a cat among the pigeons, man. That was like that was good. That was That was good. That was better than normal. That was a cat among the pigeons.
Yeah.
I mean, because a cat can eat pigeons. A cat can catch pigeons. A cat can kill pigeons.
This is great. Keep going.
I don't have any idea.
A cat among the pigeons actually means that was chaos.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you think when a cat
that was
goes
chaos.
after pigeons, it's going crazy.
All right.
It's a chaos. So, but I did love the way you were trying to...
that election, everything leading up to the election was a cat among the pigeons.
Yeah. There you go. Look at you.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was. You got to try and use that this week.
Okay, let's do it.
Listeners, make sure you try and use a cat among the pigeons. All right.
Go.
Yeah.
All right, mate. All is good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to Revival Town this week. We've had a fun time. Make sure that you're letting people know. Where are we with the merch?
So, by the time people hear this episode, it will be available. You will have seen it on our Instagram page because I actually have a meeting tomorrow where I will get more information.
Look at this, eh? Hot news. We need like one of those Diddy printers.
It's going to be a cat among the pigeons, man. It's going to be chaos.
All right, Chuck. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And everyone listening or watching, we will do the same again next week.
Yes.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you for for listening to this episode of Revival Town Podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media and remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, head on over to revivaltownpodcast.com.